Well, rise and shine, Uganda. Welcome yet to another great week. It is Monday, the 5th of September 2022. Welcome back from the weekend. Well, I don't know whether this is going to be quite a good week, but at least what I know certainly is that today is such a nail-biting day, especially for our Kenyan counterparts. But we do have the Kenyan Supreme Court that is expected to have the final say on the petition that was fronted by former Prime Minister of Kenya. That is Raila Odinga. And again, responses to the 9 concerns that were fronted by the petitioners are meant to be responded. Now, what could this mean? It could actually mean that the court may uphold the verdict that was given by the IEBC to make sure that the deputy president of Kenya, that is President-elect William Ruto, will keep on with the position, or they could nullify the elections. But we're yet to find that out. Time, of course, will be communicated as they did promise back on Friday. We're yet to see what that looks like for the Kenyans and, of course, the East African region at large. But also right here in Uganda, quite some ugly news that did happen over the weekend. We did see floods and landslides in several parts of the country, to be very specific, in Kisoro and also Pakwach, where floods have decided to become dominant. But all that, of course, we'll be giving you in details and many more stories. My name is Philomena, Mastiko, and it is with the usual suspects this morning. I do have Robert, Kirabo, Nyonyintono, and Felix NKUNDA. Maybe just to start off with you, Felix, good morning and welcome back from the weekend.
Thank you. Good morning. How are you, Philo?
I'm doing good. I'm doing good.
How was your weekend?
Well, it was a bit slow. It was a bit slow, but yeah, we survived.
Anything particular that you did during the weekend you want to share?
I really just did have some time to myself.
I didn't see you at church, so I want to ask.
Felix.
I'm just saying.
Well, I won't lie. I won't lie. I didn't go to church, but I did some praying, really. Personal praying.
They all say. But anyway, speaking about prayers, it's been quite a roller coaster of events in terms of the faith, the realm faith. Lately there's a lot of fellowships. I don't know if you've noticed, Robert and Philo. Almost every day of the week is taken up by a particular sect of ministry, whatever they want to call themselves. A Monday, people will be going for this fellowship. Tuesday, Friday. And I think on every building in Kampala, there's a lunch hour, there's an evening. And it gets to sort of like a point where we need to start now questioning, has faith-based practices turned into a commercial way of life? Like people literally, if you go on the streets now, every other street has someone with a big sort of like speaker.
Oh yes, they do have a speaker.
And I don't know if that's a church of some sort.
There is a preacher and an assistant preacher.
And an interpreter sometimes.
Yes.
And sometimes there's even a choir.
Yes.
Of about 2 or 3 women, I don't know. But it got me thinking, that is this like, what's the whole thing? Is it, I really don't know. Probably you help me ask Uncle Bob, who subscribed to some of his beliefs, but it's a little bit disturbing. It's very disturbing, because the question is, as Christians, we don't know if they're actually doing what the Bible asks them to do. I just get lost about this. And
I'm glad that I have 2 people here who are quite well versed with the Bible, so probably we'll be making references to that. But Uncle Bob, good morning, and maybe you could help us, just give us an insight of what is happening, especially in regards to what Felix was talking about a few minutes ago.
Well, it's a mixture of 2 things. One, there are those that are preaching the gospel because it is a calling and they feel that desire.
Yes.
Because the Bible tells us we need to preach the gospel till the extreme ends of this world.
True.
We need to take the gospel to everybody. We need to find you on the streets, we need to find you in the market, we need to find you in your home, we need to find you in church, because we want Christ to come back when there is nobody who has an excuse that they never had the gospel.
Okay.
Yes.
All right.
So, but also there are those that do this to exploit others. But for my weekend, we had some disturbing issues. One in Kajansi around Namolanda, a quarry caved in, and about 5 people have been confirmed dead by police. But also there's this disturbing lady, Dorothy Nabulime. I don't know if you've followed on social media. The lady who beat her child like she was aiming to kill a snake. And one thing that has come to my mind, I've interested myself to understand more, why would a biological mother, not a stepmother, beat her own child? And I've tried to find out who is Nabulime, but only to discover this is a mother of 3, each with a father. The first is 4 years, the second I think is 2, and the third is 3 months. Now, this is a woman who had her first child below the age of 18.
Yes.
Her herself, she's living a life that is already stressed. She has 3 kids. Each of the fathers, unfortunately, none is willing to give help. So she has so much stress, much as she's going to be paraded before court and charged with torture and all that. If convicted, can get a 12-year sentence. But one thing,
stay with the kids.
Well,
I don't know.
I mean, we don't know. We can't even get that answer because the person would ideally think is the best option to look after the kid. I mean, look at the way she's treating the
and you
child.
see, no. And I want to take the extreme of this conversation and try to ask myself, who is charging the fathers? Who's anyone asking the questions about the father?
Well, I mean, that is going to...
Before they
I'm
take
also
this
very
lady for
sure that
conviction
that is going to
and what?
Because they will be
You know?
asking, doesn't this child have, you know, ideally a child is supposed to have 2 parents. But like rather Robert said,
If you have
this
3
is a lady
in 3
whose
men,
children
It doesn't
have
matter,
different
Robert. That's not
yes.
the problem. It's
It's not a problem, but of course they will also hold the man responsible. It's not just a one-parent problem.
No. Phil, let's be honest, no one is going to hold the man responsible because of the society we live in.
Yes.
Men in this society will do anything and they always get away with it. Honestly, now, in situations like this, no one cares to question where is the man. Right now, the woman is the villain, she's the devil, she's the what, but you have kids with this lady, you drop them with her, probably not even child support or nothing, and now she's going to be sentenced to prison or whatever it's going to be, but no one is talking about the guy, or the guys for that matter.
Well,
so what does that really say about our society?
there are very, very many loopholes, and again, these are conversations that we've been having over time, you know, bringing everybody to account. Why? Especially for the parents, everybody believes, actually we all believe, as it should be, if you're a parent, you have to be accountable for your child, whether you're a mother, whether you're the father. Accountability has to be put on the table. Well, that's and many more stories, of course. We will be filling you in and quite some more deep conversations about how society is behaving and treating who, why, when. All these questions will be giving probably, you know, responses much later on. But for now, we'll be going through some of our stories locally and internationally.
And we kicked off with the reopening of schools for the final term of this year on the academic calendar, where traders downtown are complaining that this time around they do not make much as they expected to make. The traders are not impressed with the turn-up of scholars for shopping ahead of the 3rd term. They attribute this to increased prices of essential items that boost the cost of scholastic materials. They disclosed to UBC as learners headed to school that with the term, little has been achieved because parents are not buying as they used to buy. Many learners were seen carrying their packs and other items on motorcycles heading to various destinations. Some of the learners UBC talked to were pretty ready for this term to study. However, the parents complained about the high cost of school items and increased school fees. It wasn't a different story with those into the transport business, as they smiled all the way, though sensing it was their time to reap from the high fuel costs. Traders who deal in school-related items complained about low turn-up of buyers. However, it is also assumed that different institutions of learning will increase their school dues due to the increased price of essential and basic items like maize flour.
Well, now, State House has also extended financial support to at least 57 victims of the 2021 bomb attacks in Kampala. The money was handed over to the victims by the State House Controller, Jane Bareche, at Naguru Police Headquarters. In his message delivered by Jane Bareche, President Museveni did extend his sympathy to the families of the victims. Now, 6 died on spot and dozens injured during the twin bomb explosions near the Central Police Station and another round Parliament Avenue near RPS House in Kampala, November 16, 2021. Today, 57 victims of the 2021 bomb attack in the Kampala region have received financial support from State House, which was handed over by the State House Controller, as earlier did mention.
And moving on in the realm of agriculture, where we see over 96% of Ugandan farmers are still using a hand hoe in agriculture, according to data released by the Uganda National Bureau of Statistics 2018. Experts in agriculture extension said this trend is worrying modernization efforts of rural population, as many farmers cannot increase acreage, especially leaving many communities in subsistence production. Sekaswa Africa Association has made partnership with Honda Japan to popularize the use of agricultural machinery along agricultural value chain. The plan for modernization of agriculture that was launched 21 years ago aimed at transforming rural peasants from subsistence to commercial producers. However, with no subsidies to farm equipment and tools, it was not able to create a greater impact to the households because of over-resiliency on rudimentary tools for production. Now, they are aiming at assisting farmers to go the mechanized way for them to have more and also increase value chain production.
Now, sadly, 5 people have been killed by collapsing stone quarry in Namuranda, Kajansi town. Council Wachiso district, now an Isuzu truck driver and porters at the quarry were buried alive as they loaded stones on the lorry. Residents of Namuranda along Entebbe Road are in tears following the death of 5 quarry workers that were killed by collapsing stone quarry. Now, efforts of the quarry workers and residents could not match the quantity of weight and the rubble that only required earth-moving equipment to push away the bulky debris. Some security personnel looked on helplessly due to lack of equipment to remove the debris from the quarry workers. Now, the excavator brought in by police came in slightly too late to save the victims, who were hard pressed by the rubble.
Well, on the international front, at least 10 people have been killed and another 15 injured in a stabbing rampage in Canada's central Saskatchewan province, according to police. The victims were found in 13 different locations, including in the James Smith Cree Nation and nearby Weldon. 2 suspects, named as Damien Sanderson, 31, and Miles Sanderson, 30, are on the run and considered armed and dangerous. Residents have been told to shelter in place as a massive manhunt continues across the entire vast province. Checkpoints have been set up with police checking travelers' identification, and drivers have been urged not to pick up hitchhikers. A state of emergency has been declared in the James Smith Cree Nation, an indigenous community with about 2,000 residents northeast of Weldon, where about 200 people live. And a dangerous person alert was sent to all mobile phones across the provinces of Saskatchewan, Manitoba and Alberta, a huge region almost half the size of Europe. And moving on to Germany, the Germany government has announced a $65 billion plan to help people and businesses cope with soaring prices as several European nations introduce emergency measures to prepare for a long winter in the wake of disruption in Russian gas supplies to Europe following the Ukraine war. German Chancellor Olaf Scholz on Sunday announced a series of measures in light of expectations that energy costs would soar in the coming months. Energy prices have skyrocketed as Europe has been trying to wean itself off Russian energy following Moscow's invasion of Ukraine in late February. 2 days ago, Moscow shut a main pipeline supplying gas to Europe indefinitely, forcing countries like Germany to seek alternative energy supplies elsewhere. Scholz said his government had been planning for a total halt in gas deliveries in December, but he promised that his country would make it through the winter. The German leader said the package is aimed at shielding customers and businesses from soaring inflation with measures including benefit hikes and a public transport subsidy.
Now, at least 19 civilians have been killed in the Al-Shabaab attack in Somalia. Now, fighters have killed at least 19 civilians and destroyed trucks landed with food and aid and an overnight attack in Somalia Central region. Now, the armed group launched the attacks in Haran area, the semi-autonomous state of Hashbele in central Somalia. The trucks were transporting food supplies from Baladawain city to Mahas town. Residents did say the terrorists did massacre innocent civilians who were traveling. Now, that night, we don't have exact number of the people who did succumb to death at the hands of these merciless people.
Head into climate news. Rich polluting countries, which are predominantly to blame for the dystopian climate breakdown, have broken their promises to reduce emissions and help developing countries adapt to global heating, according to Pakistan's Minister for Climate Change, who said reparations were long overdue. Close to 1,300 people are dead and a third of Pakistan is under flood water after weeks of unprecedented monsoon rains battered the country, which only weeks earlier had been suffering a serious drought. Now, in an interview with The Guardian, the climate minister, Sherry Rahman, said global emission targets and reparations must be reconsidered given the accelerated and relentless nature of climate catastrophes hitting countries such as Pakistan. Global warming is the existential crisis facing the world, and Pakistan is ground zero, yet we have contributed less than 1% of greenhouse gas emissions. We all know that the pledges made in multilateral forums have not been fulfilled, said Rahman, 61, a former journalist, senator and diplomat who previously served as Pakistan's ambassador to the US. Well, quite a lot of conversations have been talked about when it comes to climate change and how it's affecting economies. And again, this is quite such a big adjustment that very many economies across the world have to, work upon. Speaking of economies, inflation is really hitting high. The wave is taking over the East African region, but also taking over quite the biggest percentage of European countries. And the economies are quite not doing well. And according to the current statistics that were released by the International Monetary Fund, showing the performance of some of the largest economies in the world, they did show that India has actually taken over the UK, being the fifth largest economy in the world, and UK taking over the sixth position. Now, this is quite a bit hard, considering that the UK is also is planning, or today is the D-Day when they will be electing their next prime minister. Now, as we know, the competition is a bit hard between the two people, the foreign minister, that is Liz Truss, and of course the Indian man who has been put under the spotlight for wanting to use his money to make sure that he puts the economy up when it comes to the UK, that is Rishi Sunak. But again, like I said, today is going to be quite a nail-biting Monday for many, seeing that in Kenya we're seeing the elections that rather the petitions that have been submitted, the judgment has to be passed, and of course crossing over to the UK where the Conservatives will be making the choice. We are waiting to see, but whoever will be coming in as the Prime Minister, they have quite a lot of proof to put out there and also show themselves worthy of reviving the UK economy. But speaking of which, we don't have to worry about the economy, at least for a minute or two, and we just have to prioritize our health. And I know Robert comes as a kafulu in that sense.
Well, one of the things I keep on urging people is mind about your health, because that is only when the economy will mean sense to you, because you can only discuss these things, talk about the days of COVID and all these when you're alive. So please, it is just 1,500 each of these bottles. You can buy cartons, you can buy boxes and pack at your home so that you take them regularly. But in case you can't do that, at any retail shop, at any supermarket, ask for Hallelujah banana juice, Hallelujah ginger tea, Hallelujah tamarind drink. Now what these do is they boost your immune system. These are not medicines or treatment, but they are immune boosters. So I advise you, save money, live healthy, use Hallelujah products.
Well, what is a Monday or a week without inspiration? We are going in for that. When we get back, it is Good Morning Uganda Newsreel that will be up next. We'll be with you shortly after this break. Well, rise and shine, Uganda. Welcome yet to another great week. It is Monday, the 5th of September 2022. Welcome back from the weekend. Well, I don't know whether this is going to be quite a good week, but at least what I know certainly is that today is such a nail-biting day, especially for our Kenyan counterparts. But we do have the Kenya Supreme Court that is expected to have their final say on the petition that was fronted by former Prime Minister of Kenya, that is Raila Odinga. And again, responses to the 9 concerns that were fronted by the petitioners are meant to be responded. Now, what could this mean? It could actually mean that the court may uphold the verdict that was given by the IEBC to make sure that the deputy president of Kenya, that is President-elect William Ruto, will keep on with the position, or they could nullify the elections. But we're yet to find that out. Time, of course, will be communicated as they did promise back on Friday. We're yet to see what that looks like for the Kenyans and, of course, the East African region at large. But also right here in Uganda, quite some ugly news that did happen over the weekend. We did see floods and landslides in several parts of the country, to be very specific, in Kisoro and also Pakwach, where floods have decided to become dominant. But all that, of course, we'll be giving you in details and many more stories. My name is Philomena, Mastiko, and it is with the usual suspects this morning. I do have Robert, Kirabo, Nyonyintono, and Felix NKUNDA. Maybe just to start off with you, Felix, good morning and welcome back from the weekend.
Thank you. Good morning. How are you?
I'm doing good. I'm doing good.
How was your weekend?
Well, it was a bit slow. It was a bit slow, but yeah, we survived.
Anything particular that you did during the weekend you want to share?
I really just did have some time to myself.
I didn't see you at church, so I won't ask.
Felix,
I'm just saying.
Well, I won't lie. I won't lie. I didn't go to church, but I did some praying, really. Personal praying.
They all say. But anyway, speaking about prayers, it's been quite a roller coaster of events in terms of the faith, the realm faith. Lately there's a lot of fellowships. I don't know if you've noticed, Robert and Philo. Almost every day of the week is taken up by a particular sect of ministry, whatever they want to call themselves. A Monday, people will be going for this fellowship. Tuesday, Friday. And I think on every building in Kampala, there's a lunch hour, there's an evening. And it gets to sort of like a point where we need to start now questioning, has faith-based practices turned into a commercial way of life? Like people literally, if you go on the streets now, every other street has someone with a big sort of like speaker.
Oh yes, they do have a speaker.
And I don't know if that's a church of some sort.
There is a preacher and an assistant preacher.
And an interpreter sometimes.
Yes.
And sometimes there's even a choir.
Yes.
Of about 2 or 3 women, I don't know. But it got me thinking that, is this like, what's the whole thing? Is it, I really don't know. Probably you help me ask Uncle Bob, who subscribed to some of his beliefs, but it's a little bit disturbing. It's very disturbing, because the question is, as Christians, we don't know if they're actually doing what the Bible asks them to do. I just get lost about this. And
I'm glad that I have 2 people here who are quite well versed with the Bible, so probably we'll be making references to that. But Uncle Bob, good morning, and maybe you could help us, just give us an insight of what is happening, especially in regards to what Felix was talking about a few minutes ago.
Well, it's a mixture of 2 things. One, there are those that are preaching the gospel because it is a calling and they feel that desire.
Yes.
Because the Bible tells us we need to preach the gospel till the
studios in Kampala. This is Good Morning Uganda. Pick of the day on UBC. Was brought to you by
Simply make a small deposit of 99k and pay the balance mpola. You can pay in daily, weekly or even monthly installments while you enjoy your new phone. So what are you doing today? Visit any MTN shop near you and get the MTN cupboard. That's super easy.
Forget last season. Forget the oohs and the ahs. Forget every moment that stole the show, because the real show is here on GoTV. It's the new season. It's action-packed, and it's going to be non-stop football. With over 1,000 games from more than 7 leagues and cup competitions, plus a World Cup. Make sure you get the best seat in the house this new football season. Get a GoCoder with 1 month of GoTV value for only 25,000 Uganda shillings and enjoy non-stop football. GoTV Uganda. Love it.
Ooh, they look nice.
Thank you, honey.
Yo!
You guys gather, it's going down. Gather! Gather!
Yo!
I tell you what.
Airtel is giving you bigger data bundles for the same price. Dial *175# to choose from our range of bigger Chillax bundles that don't expire. Bigger monthly bundles, all for the same price, and stay connected longer to loved ones. Airtel, the smartphone network.
I remember the lockdown, when the streets were empty and our lives disrupted, when businesses closed and our livelihoods hung in the balance. Hospitals were full. We lost loved ones, jobs, and hope. Our children couldn't study anymore. We cannot let this happen again. We should not go back. Get fully vaccinated against COVID-19 and join the millions of Ugandans who are already vaccinated.
This is Good Morning Uganda.
Well, it is the 5th day of September 2022, 5 minutes after 7 a.m. right here on Good Morning Uganda. It's another beautiful and wonderful Monday, hoping that we keep the same trend as the week goes by. I am Philomena Mastiko. Welcome to Good Morning Uganda Newsreel. I am with Felix NKUNDA and Robert Kirabo Nyonyintono. Well, this Monday morning, the topic that is up for discussion is quite an interesting one. Now, when it comes to freedom of worship, well, this is quite one freedom that we have been able to exercise freely in this country without any consequences, without any hiccups, without any challenges. And well, I cannot really disagree with the same fact that I just, had to spell out a couple of seconds ago, because when it comes to faith again, Ugandans have really exercised that and they have showed. Now, when we talk about faith, clearly we just mean the confidence that people have, especially in the line of religion. We mean the kind of confidence people have in teachings or beliefs of a certain denomination, a certain religious denomination. Now, for the last couple of years, we have been seeing quite a number of churches mushroom here in Uganda. Well, other countries, I don't know how it is done, but in Uganda, I must tell you that everyone now almost has a church. We have seen several pastors do very many things to make sure that they get their congregations to believe them. But some of these have been questioned by society, by stakeholders, even by people in authority. Now, I'll give you an incident over the weekend. I'm sure Felix and Robert, you saw what happened over there in Hoima. We did see a pastor was actually giving some of his congregation members strokes of a cane. Now, this is not one of those absurd and questionable acts we have seen in churches. We have seen other people do quite some obscure things, other than beating. We have seen others you know, burnt. I mean, if I take you back to the, you know, to those days where we did see, where we lost a number of people who were burnt in church during the Chiwetere times. And I mean, there are very many other things that have happened between there. And it's starting to really get to Ugandans, you know, in general. Now, the pastor that we are talking about was later remanded to Luzira prison. We don't know what his fate is, but again, we hope that we will be informed about that. But getting back to church and all these pastors and all these other religious leaders, you will be walking by, you'll be driving by a roadside, like Felix did say at the start of the show, you'll find a pastor or a preacher with a few members of his or her choir, you know, with all these public speaking systems, and they're trying to tell the word, preach the word of God, which is not a bad thing. But maybe to start off with you, Felix, I really want to know, because like I did say, some of these acts are really questionable, because you'd wonder which God says you have to beat people. I mean, which God says, you know, all these things. So how do we get to make sense with all the preachings, with all the pastors, with all the churches that are mushrooming, you know? And it's not just only for the evangelistical people, no. I mean, we even other Christian denominations, it's quite really sad. So how do we make sense out of this?
As you did say, it's quite sad, hilarious, if I may add, and quite, but doesn't want to hear that word, but very heinous practices, most lately, in relation to faiths or religion. Because religion are basically the practices, actually, which is the major discourse
yes.
in spectrum. You may believe or choose not, but the wonders of faith made religious practices and faith are right in this country. It's there in conferred under Chapter 3 of the Constitution, that you are allowed to practice your faith freely, and you're given right to do the same. Now, not also forgetting that whenever rights are bestowed, they are not necessarily gifts of the state, but they are inherent in relation to what we believe in and what we profess. For some of us who have been concrete in the faith of Catholic practices, we know that we know where to start and where to stop. My brother Bobia, who's Pentecostal, I hope I'm not mistaken, as he says, as a matter of fact as well, he knows where to start and where to stop in his practices. So are the brothers, the Muslims, the Seventh Day, at least Adventists. We have various, like we also have the Mormons, we have the, I don't know which other, Baha'i, not many Ugandans subscribe to it as a practice. But these are the few that we have mentioned. They have yardsticks. And for time since up till most recent, we have been knowing the confines of the practices of those few that we know. That Protestants, these are the yardsticks. Catholics are the yardsticks. Pentecostals, they keep evolving with due respect. That every year, for them, they always change skin. You know how a snake, where you hold
it sheds off skin, and then,
I don't know, there's something new about them almost, so you can't say that they stop here. Before you know, they used to be in Biwempe, they went to Mavati, now they're the people who have the best churches, biggest, but today they're the ones who own the most expensive, like they change. But what am I saying? What we are seeing today, you gave an example of this guy who caned followers.
One by one.
And I looked at that video, and honestly, I thought it wasn't in Uganda. So that's why I didn't give it much. Not until I saw the guy being arraigned in court. I'm like, whoa. So it was actually here. But that speaks a lot about the appreciation of faith and religion, and how it has tremendously grown irrelevantly. When you see a society like ours, today we talk about, every time we are here talking about families, Robert did bring an example of this lady who's going to be aligned in court today. I think she battered a child or something like this. family, society, all the things we talk about today, when you see the level of criminality, indecency and all that, it's truly a reflection of the setup of our religious side. With this kind of pastors, you can't guarantee that you won't have 1 million single mothers. Honestly and truly, you may not want to talk about facts as usual, but I'm sorry if I talk about individuals who you relate with, I won't give names, but we have in this country people who have come out to tell people, don't take COVID medicine, COVID is not real.
Yes.
And they are faith leaders. In these countries where we have a faith-based leader who tells others that they are stupid, they are mongols, they are those Uganda words. Now, how do you expect the congregation to be or to rise above the bar of the preacher? Can you imagine last week a bishop was remanded to Ruzira? A bishop? Do you know who a bishop is?
This is like the last category of people you would expect to see in situations like that. You people.
You know it is easy to put it out of the mouth, bishop, but do you know who a bishop is? Like, do you know what it takes for someone to be a bishop? You understand? Like, if you see the word a bishop now in remand, how did this happen? It was unheard of.
Yes.
That's why in Uganda, because of the sanctity of religious leaders or our religious leaders, even they got a saying, like, because of the sanctity that comes with being a spiritual leader. But where is the sanctity today? Today, we have spiritual leaders who are self-ordained. You know, self-ordainment is this, and this is where the problem is. Someone will come and start telling you, for me, I spoke to God yesterday, God told me that, you people, it is going to rain in the afternoon. Are you silly? Like,
where do you get the audacity?
You know, someone tells us he went to heaven, came back yesterday, then tomorrow is you know, that kind of foolery, and these things have continued going on without check. And now, you see, that's how they start. Someone starts by saying, I remember when we were in university, we used to have some of our colleagues who used to call themselves bishops. Apostle, bishop, mania. There's pastor, there's apostle, there's bishop, there's prophet. In the class we'll have all the disciples, all the owners of the disciples in our law school. Of course, for me, I was comfortable being a that's my place. That's my place in the heavenly, and I'm happy because I tried, and definitely the coding was put to a stop. But I don't know. And you see, honestly and truly, it is not enough for court to come and start just to put these guys behind bars.
Yes.
Because they're being put behind bars using other laws. Like we said, like we're talking about earlier, I think, offset that. They're only being remanded under the Penal Code Act, probably for assault, aggravated assault.
Yes.
Same thing even for the so-called bishop and what. But we need to have a regulative mechanism of these faith-based institutions. In as much as when you go into theology and the realm of the spiritual realm and faith, it is not good, because even the Bible is clear, you don't bring judgment, godly judgment to heavenly, to worldly courts and what and all that. But it is also not fair in the same Bible which talks about that because leadership is a bestowment from him, God himself, it should be used to govern his own people. But we must create sanity. Otherwise, in as much as we fear to touch these people, calling them the untouchables,
yes,
because they want to sit under the beacons of being godly and what, we are going to lose so much. Imagine today, there are people who have failed to find sense out of life because they are hiding under the ambits of being called by God.
Yes.
Not that God doesn't call people. God
I mean, we cannot totally, understand, but there are some things that are pretty much.
When we talked about regulation a couple of months ago, Robert, if you remember, these Kirabos were going to beat us who are talking about regulating faith-based institutions. They came out with every muscle of their bodies. If you remember.
Yes.
Yeah. Because they were only told to go and study.
But I love the fact that you did open up that topic of regulation. Now, because we are seeing very many churches, Robert, that are coming up, and everyone comes with their own, school of thought. Okay, we don't know what it is that they are preaching, but at least we hear a God somewhere in there. We don't even know what kind of systems they follow in those churches. And like he did say, we have very many now prophets, we have disciples, we have, I don't know what to call them, apostles and all that. But in that line, Robert, we know that because some of these preachers have garnered quite big followings, all right, which some people really find disturbing again. They've garnered these big followings, and you know what happens? That usually opens them up to quite some other things like, commercializing this whole, making it a business. Because if you have a big following, you know that definitely there is, I can get money from this. We have seen them progress from Biwempe, people moving to churches, people, yes, but some the Lord has been good, others we also cannot argue with the fact that they are actually taking advantage of some of these, congregations. But I mean, how do we get to regulate these people, especially the ones that are not doing things the right way? Because this is again a fact we cannot argue with, Robert. You yourself, you know that. But how do we get to regulate? How do we pick out the weeds out of the plants or the crops?
First, we must know where did we go wrong? How did we get where we are today? And I want to just use a few minutes to take you back to introduction of faith or religion in this country.
Yes.
Then I'll show you where the problem came from. We must understand that by nature of being human beings, two things in Africa you don't easily talk about. That is one's culture or their tradition and their faith. Because people, there is a way they believe or they associate with these things, with the two I've talked about, as themselves. So in Uganda here, we had our way of worshipping, way of honoring God. You sacrifice, the Felix says here would shake certain things. Then that's what we believed in. By the way, before the Western world culture,
of course, there was a way people prophesied
the faith. Tell you, these are people who know even how to stop rain. So Felix will tell you definitely that we weren't pagans, that we didn't know God.
Yes.
We had our way, we had our God. We knew the rain is not coming. We go to our mountains, we sacrifice our cows, we do whatever we do. They had also our practices. Our God would even punish. Hey, and all that. But the white man came in. He had the missionaries, those the white fathers and whatever. Then also had Islam come in later. Now, when religion was first introduced in Uganda by the missionaries, it had a system. It had a system and there were regulations. Islam, they had a system and there were regulations. Now, over a time, because then we had Islam, Catholics, Protestants, Adventists also came in later, but these mother religions, they had mentorship, they had training. You would not just wake up and say, I'm a priest, I'm a reverend, I'm a canon. Then there came in what was called the East African Revival. These missionaries came in with the later preaching the gospel and saying, yes, you are Catholic, you are Protestant, you are Muslim, but you're not saved. They came with a group of people that they believed had particular practices that brought them more closer to God, understood God better, and you had to also be in your religion, but accept Christ as your Lord and Savior. And the East African Revival that they call Barokole Bazukufu were very rigid. Actually, they would never take even loans. They had that way of life. Now, where the problem starts from is not with the Bazukufu. There's a group of youth that by then were in most basically United States of America. Now there they found that the born-again fraternity was already there, the Pentecostal movement. This movement was not regulated, even there. So these young boys, some had gone to do other things, but later they attended these fellowships like Felix said, and they said, no, we can take ministry to Uganda. Now this man lives in the United States. They have prayed for him, comes in Uganda, buys land, comes with a group of whites. They set up a church. They have their way of worshipping. It is very enticing compared to what we had with Wombe, kids drumming and dancing. But at the point of these churches coming in, our government of Uganda looked at them as NGOs. And up now, Pentecostal churches are registered under the NGO Act. And those that are registered take time and go and renew their certificate. I've escorted a number to Internal Affairs before it was shifted to go and renew their licenses, and they pay some amount of money. So what happened that the Pentecostals, even from the initial start, were not seen as a faith-based. They were seen like people coming to do charity, because most of these guys were getting money support from foreign. The churches that began were not local-centered. Now, where another problem came, that over a time with the peace and tranquility that we've enjoyed as Uganda, there became a middle class, the likes of Felix, people that have had money. Now, these people shifted from saying, to start a church, you must have Bazungu that are helping you, to know that Ugandans have money. I can start a church, Philo would come, Felix would come, there is a middle class. Money can be gotten home.
So now, and I love the fact that you do talk about the middle class, because now it seems they're really getting off the original plan, because why are you now setting up something that is ideally for a certain class of people? There's certain specific things that you're looking out of in that specific class of people.
Because previously, why even when you had the born agains and you wouldn't see these extremes? Because the money they were relying on basically was coming from abroad.
Yes.
But after noticing that, hey, now Ugandans have the money.
My brother, a question. Relying on money from abroad, money for what?
For ministry.
I've been waiting to hear you talk about sports money, America, what, land money, for what?
For ministry.
What ministry? Were they going to, were they specific, like,
for example, Felix, going and carrying out a crusade. You know what a crusade is? A crusade where you see them go to a community to preach the gospel. They have to have maybe sometimes a tent, generators, and all that. Because that is when they preach, then they will get people to come and join the church.
Are they going to
that
people?
one crusade, fuel, transportation, what can cost you about 2M.
Okay.
So, all these had money. This is what this money that was coming in, sustaining by then. So, now going specifically after that background, government at the point where it would have come up and say, these are the clear regulations. At that time, we didn't have that regulation. Now, when these people amassed wealth, they got numbers. That even politically, I want to tell you, in any election, you see there is where Christian organizations now, churches, people are dying. Let me go, if I get the Barokole vote, if I get this church's vote. So they became powerful. In this government, you find people tell you, Ndimulokole. Go to these parastatals who are heading
power, Robert?
So what happened? They got that closeness to power, to associates. People pray in their churches. They will tell you, this is what we want. One Father Rukodo, actually it was called the Rukodo Bill, but the Faith and Religious-Based Organizations Bill. So when the government said this is a time to regulate these people, one, they looked at it as offensive because they believe this is a calling. And you can't come out and regulate the voice of the Lord if someone is called to worship. But I think also it was blown out of proportion and a mixture of ignorance. Because what the law required was, let's have these people at least go to recognized Bible colleges, so that they can have knowledge of what they are doing. Today, because they don't have knowledge, today I'm a pastor in my church, Felix is my interpreter, he sees how I'm developing day by day, making money. I wake up one day, Felix has moved the fraction of people, he has begun a church somewhere else. Felix has not been mentored. Felix has no knowledge of theology.
Now, isn't that the reason why regulation is necessary?
Regulation is necessary, but then there is also a challenge. How do you have a wholesome approach to regulation? Second, do we have the will? Rokodo was bashed. Conferences were held. You saw all, and government somehow, let's leave this freedom of worship.
Fido, with due respect to what Uncle Bob is saying, The beginning of this problem is the introduction of these, you know, in people who come from Budu. I don't know, Philip, you're not very, you know, but Nabudu
I'm not
have a
well
saying,
versed
yeah,
with
our tradition.
Yes.
But Nabudu, we have a saying that aganaga, that when Philip, you're not straight, you're lukewarm, like the Bible says, you're not hot,
you're not cold,
you're neither cold,
you're just there.
And you know what the Bible says about such people? I'm gonna spit you out. Now, these are the people Robert is talking about. The problems of this country started when we started having such people. If you heard what Robert is saying, is that their focus was on the middle class. You know, the church of God wasn't built for such definitions. And I'm not blaming him. He only said the truth of the matter. It's not his fault. But I have seen evidently, and the videos are all over, even for our viewers who may want to take this offensively, preachers saying, for me, when you come into my basket, don't bring what?
Yeah, don't bring coins. Okay, I need. So they put specific denominations of money.
And those are people who stand in the realm of God. But if you read the Bible, that's the purpose of theology, that what you're preaching, understand the purpose of the church. That's why they're saying you must have some level of theology.
I mean, we have seen Rwanda decide to just do that. Like, we are not going to allow you to open up a church. You can't just afford to wake up one day, open up a church.
Let me speak about the faith I know. It takes a priest not less than 10 years to be ordained a priest. But 10 years after just studying one thing, not that they don't make mistakes, they have their challenges as human beings. But if you're to look at the level of exposure, now, even Jesus himself, when he was setting up his ministry, or the Father's ministry for that matter, he didn't base it on himself. Every other thing that happened for him, he always referred back to a superior. These brothers of ours and sisters, later there are many sisters by the way, who are prophetess and what and what, they refer to themselves. No wonder they have ministries called Robert Kirabo Ministries. And then they ask you, Philomena, where do you prefer? I prefer from Bob.
Yes.
Uncle Bob Ministries. What the hell?
Are you trying to say that they have personalized this ministry?
That is the only way they can cane people.
Because they're not answerable to anybody?
That's the thing. Because if you stand, when a priest stands on the altar, they are just delivering in an honor
from Rome.
No, not Rome. No, not Rome. I don't think in any of the messages they say the Pope has told me it. It is a godly. They're standing from. You know, when Jesus was going, he said, "I'm leaving the church to who?" If you remember, if you read your Bible, to who, Robert?
The church belongs to Christ.
Okay, to Christ. But what I'm saying is that the challenge we have is that the people who stand in the presence, like that, at the end of a religion. That's why people have the audacity to say, I can do this to you, and you, and you, and you. Because they are standing out to be like the God themselves. There's even one person here who said a statement, and that was, in my own opinion, as fairly student of theology, who said that, for me to do this, even if God came here, like it is blasphemic, if you have read the Bible. You can imagine a preacher comes and says, for me to reconcile with Kirabo, even if God comes here. But you're the one saying that you're preaching God. But you also...
You're showing that you are indispensable.
You already said that you will, even if he comes, the one you're preaching,
you must.
They're contradicting themselves, especially when it comes
lastly, to that. Feel about this. For you parents, it is your duty. Now, if the parents are being caned by an individual, I don't know why the guy was caning them, God knows. But now your children are seeing you being caned by some guy who has a very funny haircut. I saw the man in court. You know, there's those things for, and I'm thinking, what kind of, let's be serious. And the government never says anything about this because of what Robert said earlier. Because of rule of faith. Again, let's be serious.
Anyway, Robert, let me get your parting shots on this briefly.
One, for me first, I want to urge Ugandans. I know we don't have a culture of reading, but read the Bible. The Bible tells us we shall know them by their fruits. If you read the Bible very well, you will know that this man is speaking the truth, this man is not delivering. And to our government, we must accept there must be regulation. There must be regulations. Many people today are committing these offenses. Some even don't know that what they are doing is wrong because they have not been mentored. Jesus had disciples. All the great men we read about in the Bible, they had someone who did mentor them. They had a time, even when Jesus left, the Holy Spirit had to first come upon these disciples. So we need to regulate. People need to have knowledge. Knowledge is power. Many of them just copy. If Pastor Kirabo was letting people lick his shoe, Prophet Kirabo, and someone from that church will tell them, lick my shoe, because they are copying from someone. We need to go back and equip ourselves as Ugandans. What do the scriptures say? Then government, we cannot continue being intimidated by a certain cluster of people. We must believe Pentecostal movement is growing so much in Uganda than any other faith, but it must be regulated.
Well, the question remains,
Felix.
there need for qualification standards for religious leaders? Is there need for qualification standards for religious leaders? That is our poll question. Please tell us. We're not saying that you're not entitled to worship. No. As a Ugandan, you are entitled to worship and all believe in what you want to believe. But the thing is that you don't have to be gullible, and you need to be woke, like they said, to know what is right and what is wrong. And again, like in any religious denomination, we know that there should be yardsticks, what to do, what not to do. Now that ideally should be giving you quite a picture of what you believe in or what you want to believe in. Manya wokoma, like you did say. So
yes. Let me tell you, Philip, the hardest thing, what you're saying is very true.
Yes.
The hardest people in this Uganda, not the world, in Uganda, at mid-23, 24 up to about 29, 30, who have attached themselves to prophets and those fellowships. All of the things you're saying don't mean anything to them.
They don't mean anything to them. Well, maybe at a later stage they will make sense.
It is
Well,
regulation
that's
and the Holy
it from our
Spirit must
conversation
We
this
need to help
morning.
them by
But
force.
we'll be having the
More
papers
Mutukufu.
in just a few minutes from now to see the big stories. Good morning, Uganda.
The Tales of Kasozi, brought to you by Uganda Communications Commission.
Hello?
Hello?
This is Kasozi. How can I help you?
Hey, Kasos, my brother. Long time. We last met when we were at campus. It's been a while, but you are the person I'm looking for.
Campus? Really?
Hey, you don't remember me?
Okay, so how can I help you?
I'm stuck in Gulu making millions, and I need to urgently send money to my sick mother. But I can't find any mobile money agent near me. I've sent the money to your phone, as you can see the message. It might take a few minutes to come through, but I urgently need you to send the money to my mother. Let me send you her number, and you send it to her chap.
My friend, I'm afraid your mom is going to die.
What?
Because I don't know you, I never went to campus, and I'm also in Gulu. So can we meet at CPS, we talk about it?
Stay tuned for what Kasozi does next.
Tofera. Refrain from unnecessary engagement with strangers over the phone. This message is powered by the Uganda Communications Commission.
I remember the lockdown, when the streets were empty and our lives disrupted, when businesses closed and our livelihoods hung in the balance. Hospitals were full. We lost loved ones, jobs, and hope. Our children couldn't study anymore. We cannot let this happen again. We should not go back. Get fully vaccinated against COVID-19 and join the millions of Ugandans who are already vaccinated. Every waking day is a reminder just how beautiful this, our land, truly is. The kind of beauty that you can only find here, in the lush green all around us and the wondrous sights within. It's in the distinct aroma of our cooking to the taste of food that takes you on a journey, in the sound of homecoming and the sound of Mother Earth, in the magnificence we find on our travels and the exciting moments we experience. Ours is the kind of beauty that comes in all things big and small. All we have to do is awaken our senses and truly enjoy what's uniquely ours. Explore Uganda, the pearl of Africa.
This is Good Morning Uganda.
It is the press review. This morning we're looking at the new vision. First, the big story over there, we're talking about government salaries, government slashes grants to UPE and USE schools. Clearly, this is not going to sit well with the administrators over there. And we're looking at how thousands graced the Rotary Cancer Run, which happened yesterday. And again, in more news, Museveni extends financial support to victims. And also looking at how First Lady flagged off food donation to Karamoja. Now, still in more news, often seeks help to achieve his dream, and looking at the judgment day for Ruto and Odinga. This is, of course, in relation to the 9 concerns that were presented in this Kenya election petition. Catch the full story on 49, the page in New Vision. Now, taking you back in history today, Karim Hiji in car crash. The year was 1999.
Well, in Daily Monitor, Isimba Dam defect, China flies in exports, and can Uganda meet its 2030 malaria elimination target, and anxiety as Kenya's polls petition judgment out today. Now, judge in pay dispute blames witch hunt, but also Cancer Run Uganda embassies asked to raise cancer awareness. But also in Uganda, we would already know the outcome. That is the lizard anxiety as Kenya's petition judgment out today. Well, of course, still in the Daily Monitor, government does seek raising cancer awareness. That is for various embassies. And today in history, massacre begins in Munich Olympics, and also Houston elected as president of Texas. That is in 1836. But still looking at the dailies, we're looking at various stories here. And one of them is the 5 killed after quarry caves in.
And in the sports section of the New Vision, we're looking at how Chelimo has some work to do. And also quite a celebration it was for Marvin Joseph Young Man with Melton Karisa and Richard Basangwa, 6 out of 6. And this is, of course, in the African Nations Championship qualifiers. Well, we did have Uganda score 3, Tanzania 0. And the Bombers head for Maputo. Again, in more sports stories, and the FIFA World Cup coming alive. Are you ready or not?
Well, of course, sports. OBB Sports qualify for Africa Club Championship, and UCU KCCA back on the grind. Now, Chan make qualification count as last, where we did see Uganda 3, Tanzania 0, which was there in St. Mary's Stadium in Chitende. But also, Kapchora runners shine in Renzori Marathon, and Handball Uganda look to finish 5th, but Cranes must make record Chan qualification count. Rugby Cranes 7th head to World Cup unfazed, and Brussels show impresses Nyonyintono and Chelimo. Now, swimmers impress at World Juniors. But also, still in sports, we'll be looking at what the results were on the weekend. While we did see Man United disarms Ghana's Brazilian Anthony kept his debut for United with a sublime goal as Rashford hit 2.
The Daily Nation, portal versus process. Now, it's the D-Day where both Ruto and Raila have said that they will accept the Supreme Court findings. And we're looking how in Raila versus Chebukati and Ruto, who will be taking the day. Well, we're seeing major pointers over there, so get yourself a copy to catch up on that and more. And they're also giving you a layout of the key decision areas for courts. Kenyan extradited to US in poaching and drug charges. And also, Manu ends Arsenal's unbeaten run. There was quite some serious banter, I must tell you, Felix. Yesterday was a very hard evening. It was. In my neighborhood, I was hearing different screams coming in from different parts. And I was like, wow, clearly Uganda is full of Arsenal and Manu. But it is what it is.
Morrison is full of Arsenal people, and what happened yesterday is going to have them calm down a little bit.
Oh, well,
We've been over the moon.
They kept insisting that, well, still, regardless of the 3 goals, Arsenal still remains at the top of the table.
Well, let's wait to see how long it's going to be on the top of the table.
Well, make sure you get yourself a copy of all these dailies, the New Vision, the Daily Monitor, and, of course, the Daily Nation, and catch up on those stories and many more. Well, our poll question is running definitely about the conversation we're having earlier on in the Good Morning Uganda newsreel, where we want to know what your thoughts are on whether Uganda should adopt qualifications for all the religious leaders to make sure that we don't get incidents where we have preachers, pastors, priests doing all the most absurd things to their congregations. Do be part of this conversation. Tell us what you think. Get onto all our social media platforms. Twitter, to be very specific, the hashtag is UBCGMU, and we'll be getting into some of that feedback as Good Morning Uganda goes on from now. But also, because it's a Monday, it's quite necessary for you to know how the roads look like, the situation on the roads, traffic or no traffic. Will you be in time, or you could actually be late at the very start of the week? And I want to look at areas from Gayaza, Kalere, looking at Bombo Road, Mulago, areas of Bwaise as you approach, of course, Makere, and getting into the city center. Well, starting off from Gayaza, Kampala Road, if you're coming in from those areas, you need to be expecting some traffic hiccups over here. We are seeing traffic building up right from this point. We do have also a traffic build up at this point as you're headed towards Kalere Market and that roundabout. After that roundabout, do expect again some traffic hiccups, actually some quite heavy traffic hiccups. We're seeing the red marks here, the red stop, showing you that the traffic in that specific area is actually quite heavy. And as you go on, the traffic doesn't become any better. Matter of fact, it worsens because we are seeing red transitioning into maroon, showing you that this very specific spot has some heavy traffic over there that you need to take care of. And of course, as you're going on and approaching Makere, Benaisa Road is actually very busy this morning. We are seeing some heavy traffic in that very specific road, and it continues all the way, as you can see. So this is going to be a bit hard for you to navigate, and if it's your usual route, I must say that you're going to have to be very patient. Better yet, look for an alternative if you want to hit your destination in time. Well, for the biggest part of Bombo Road, I could say that it is quite heavy with the traffic. We're seeing red spots here. We are seeing other maroon spots here. We're seeing traffic building up here as you're, of course, accessing Wandegea. So this whole road, actually, it's quite busy. We do have cars using it to leave or to get into the city center. And coming to Wandegea, I could say that again, the story is the same. It does not shift. The traffic continues to be very heavy as you're headed towards the city center. Now, continuing all the way, of course, on Bombo Road, trying to get to Kampala City Square, I must say that the road is very busy, especially if you're getting into the city center. However, slightly above it, Buganda Road, as you're headed towards that direction, I could say that it's quite a very freeway this morning. Very easy for you to navigate. The arrows clearly allocate that it is a one-way route, and again, because of the green that is dominating the biggest part of this road, I could say that this would be your ideal route to use if you're headed towards Wandagea or other places like Nakasero, if you don't want to be caught in quite a heavy traffic this morning. And moving on to, of course, as you're headed towards the square, I could say that the main road is also starting to have quite some serious traffic build-up, so you need to put that into perspective as you're getting to where you're going. And around, of course, Shimoni Road, I must say that we're seeing traffic building up on some parts of this road. Over here we do have oranges showing you that cars, other vehicles, cyclists and all could be using this road, so you need to be very careful and make sure that you are in time, or you could get other alternatives to make sure that you get to your city center. Well, for the remaining part, or the main road of Kampala Road, I could say that traffic is building up here and there, but it is actually flowing, so it shouldn't be a big problem for now. And again, coming in, joining that main road using Entebbe Road, I could say that the traffic is also quite heavy on this very specific part as you're headed towards the entry point of the main road. So, well, if you're coming in from those areas, you need to take note and make sure that you use alternative routes. But all I can say, general overview, is that the traffic in that specific part of the road is, a specific part rather of Kampala, is quite very, very busy this morning. And also considering that today is Monday, the 5th of September, we do know that quite a number of students are returning back to school. So parents are making sure that they get their kids in school in time and also be able to get to work. So there may be some bit of chaos, but again, I am just urging you to be a very responsible road user, as a parent, as a cyclist, as anybody, a pedestrian. Make sure that you use the road responsibly. We don't want to get accident scores and all that being reported by the traffic department of police. Well, I will leave it at that, and also remind you again that our poll question is running up on our socials. Get onto Twitter and tell us what you think when it comes to having our religious leaders fully qualified to make sure that they regulate this field. Do share with us your 2 cents on the topic, and we will be sharing it with our Good Morning Uganda family. Well, we do have the GMU agenda coming up next, of course, with Robert Kirabo Nyonyintono in just a couple of minutes from now, and we'll also be having some sports updates. Probably Ruben Pima Chibidango will be telling us quite more about this Man U and Arsenal game, and tell us what transpired exactly for those of you who are not able to catch this match that did run yesterday. And again, we do have the GMU Extra as well lined up for you to get some extra info that you could have missed out on Good Morning Uganda. Otherwise, I want to wish you a very wonderful week and a very beautiful Monday, hoping that the Monday blues will disappear as the day goes by. I am Philomena Mastiko. It is Good Morning Uganda.
This is Good Morning Uganda.
Pick of the day on UBC. Was brought to you by
Simply make a small deposit of 99k and pay the balance mpola. You can pay in daily, weekly or even monthly installments while you enjoy your new phone. So what are you doing today? Visit any MTN shop near you and get the MTN cupboard. That's super easy.
Every waking day is a reminder just how beautiful this, our land, truly is. The kind of beauty that you can only find here, in the lush green all around us and the wondrous sights within. It's in the distinct aroma of our cooking, to the taste of food that takes you on a journey, in the sound of homecoming and the sound of Mother Earth, in the magnificence we find on our travels and the exciting moments we experience. Ours is the kind of beauty that comes in all things big and small. All we have to do is awake awaken our senses and truly enjoy what's uniquely ours. Explore Uganda, the pearl of Africa.
The Tales of Kasozi, brought to you by Uganda Communications Commission.
Hello?
Hello?
This is Kasozi. How can I help you?
Hey, Kasozi, my brother. Long time. We last met when we were at campus. It's been a while, but you are the person I'm looking for.
Campus? Really?
Hey, you don't remember me?
Okay, so how can I help you?
I'm stuck in Gulu making millions, and I need to urgently send money to my sick mother. But I can't find any mobile money agent near me. I've sent the money to your phone, as you can see the message. It might take a few minutes to come through, but I urgently need you to send the money to my mother. Let me send you her number, and you send it to her chap.
My friend, I'm afraid your mom is going to die.
What?
Because I don't know you, I never went to campus, and I'm also in Gulu. So can we meet at CPS, we talk about it?
Stay tuned for what Kasozi does next.
Tofera. Refrain from unnecessary engagement with strangers over the phone. This message is powered by the Uganda Communications Commission.
Happiness comes to us in many places. It's in knowing the mosquito net keeps our children healthy. The wife having the support of her husband. It's in deciding together when to have a baby. And for some, focusing on what's important right now. So what's your happiness? Make the right health decisions to ensure happiness for you and your family.
Ooh, they look nice.
Thank you, honey.
You guys gather, it's going down. Gather! Gather! Yo!
I tell you what.
Airtel is giving you bigger data bundles for the same price. Dial *175# to choose from our range of bigger Chillax bundles that don't expire. Bigger monthly bundles, all for the same price, and stay connected longer to your loved ones. Airtel, the smartphone network.
Forget last season. Forget the oohs and the ahs. Forget every moment that stole the show, because the real show is here on GoTV. It's the new season. It's action-packed, and it's going to be non-stop football. With over 1,000 games from more than 7 leagues and cup competitions, plus a World Cup. Make sure you get the best seat in the house this new football season. Get a GoCoder with 1 month of GoTV value for only 25,000 Uganda shillings and enjoy non-stop football. GoTV Uganda. Love it.
Welcome to English in a Minute. We all have a physical body that we can touch. And some people believe we also have a soul, a spiritual side of us. So what happens when we put them together?
Anna. Anna. Anna.
Jonathan, why are you yelling?
I'm trying to read. Can't you play your accordion somewhere else?
When I play the accordion, I play it body and soul.
You can put your body and soul into anything. Your work, your favorite sport, or if you are like Anna, music. Music. Oh. Stop! And that's English in a Minute.
Hey, it's time to play. Let's go! We're glad you came. Because we love to share. Let's have some fun. What should we try next? Everyone. Because we love to learn together. Make
Every waking day is a reminder just how beautiful this, our land, truly is. The kind of beauty that you can only find here. In the lush green all around us and the wondrous sights within. It's what you feel in the gentle caress of tropical wind from the mountaintops. And the glow in your heart from a warm neighborly invite. It's in the distinct aroma of our cooking to the taste of food that takes you on a journey. In the sound of homecoming and the sound of Mother Earth. In the magnificence we find on our travels and the exciting moments we experience. Ours is the kind of beauty that comes in all things big and small. All we have to do is awaken our senses and truly enjoy what's uniquely ours. Explore Uganda, the pearl of Africa.
Live from Now Avenue in UBC Studios. This is Good Morning Uganda.
At exactly 8 a.m., thank you for keeping it with us here on UBC TV. I'm Robert Kirabo Nyonyintono, and this is Good Morning Uganda Agenda, part of Good Morning Uganda, your morning show. So every weekday from 6:30, make it a date with us. We are here to spice up your morning with relevant information, of course, with some few light moments here and there. And today, being a Monday, schools are officially opening for third term. Now, what is the challenge? The challenge is hiked fees. We all accept it's been a tough world since COVID-19. Great economies have had challenges. Uganda, our economy has had challenge. And of course, people would say money is scarce. But remember, education is a fundamental human right. Much as we have government or public and private institutions, it should be a right for any child of school-going age to be in school. Now we have government-aided schools and we have private schools. This morning, I have the General or the National Secretary, that is Federation of Non-State Education Institutes, but he is also a technical advisor in the Education Advocacy Network of Uganda, and that is Patrick Kaboyo. Patrick, good morning.
Good morning, Mr. Kirabo.
Well, I'm happy to have you in studios. But also I have so many questions on my mind. More so at such a time where many of us are wondering, you people that own schools, you people that are in this education sector, many are wondering, are you also part of us? Do you see where things are going? Are you considerate? One tells you if you can't afford this school, then go to the other schools. First term school fees were different. Second term, they were different. Now, third term, the final term, again, you're increasing. Who will change a child in third term? Someone was telling me many children now in fences, porch homes, they're not going to school because parents cannot be able to afford that. Why are you acting in a way that maybe some think is not considerate of what is happening to parents?
Thank you, Mr. Kirabo, and also thank you for inviting me here. I hope your children have gone to school today.
Definitely.
Now, you should ask, how did we end here? You recall that COVID-19 changed the clock. And when COVID-19 changes the clock, you cannot remain the same. First, the increase in everything you are seeing is not a case for Uganda per se, but it's a global phenomenon. With COVID knocking, there comes 4 critical issues that parents, teachers, even students should get to know. The first, that COVID brought the increase in commodity prices. 2, the increase in interest rates with commercial banks. But also there is increase in borrowing by the governments, and that affects mostly sub-Saharan African countries where Uganda is part. And the fourth and last is the increase in climate change. You know that you have seen floods, you have maybe slept throughout the night and you've not covered yourself. You just lie as if you are a log, or you just lie on your bed and the day ends. So because of those, I recall in the better half, if not all, of 2021, we really spoke, we really talked, we really persuaded, we really lobbied that government should come and help those institutions that were private and give a stimulus or give a subsidy to ensure that schools are back. Because much as those schools are private, they do not teach or educate private students. They educate learners and citizens of Uganda. So they contribute to the human capital development of this country. They do not educate learners, and after some time they tell them, now for you, go and work in public, go and work in private. So in the spirit of public-private partnership that is meaningful, government ought to have realized that we are going to have a post-COVID era that is so stressful, and at least got a smaller percentage to have these schools run in buying the usable items like detergents, those that can support the implementation of standard operating procedures. But as the Swahili word says, everything was sufuri. Zero thing was seen.
Because I remember your members urging government to give at least every school 100 million.
Which never came.
That you said it could be a loan that you can pay in a period of not exceeding 5 years, and you had talked of a percentage. Was it 5 or 10%? And you said we are going to pay this money back to government.
A good statement.
Give us a 5 period.
A good statement, Mr. Kirabo, does not translate into a policy. If I speak to you so well that I love you so much, you are so smart, you are doing well, and if I want to support you, I must be practical and give you something you should see. But having these schools move to discuss with commercial banks, which of course are in business, can follow the interest rate regulation based on the Bank of Uganda's lending rates as they have set, it still offers a lot of stress to all those who are running schools.
Don't commercial banks in Uganda have a package tailor-made for schools, like school loans or something that where you can go to? Because I'm reliably informed that most of the schools operate on loans. Someone opens up a school today, gets a little bit of few buildings, goes to the bank, gets a loan. You survive on loans, even when terms are openings. And there's something that is friendly to you people.
If it was, as you've stated, then there would be schools that closed getting resuscitated or not closing. But you should know that a good number of schools at all levels closed because of COVID. But that said, we also continue to see the business as usual, of course, of our very many technocrats. Because we right now see that schools have started today. The issue here we are discussing is increase in fees, which is not new, because the market has showed us that some months back, a bar of soap was around 4,000, but right now, a bar of soap is halfway the price increased. We used to see a kilo of posho at 1,900. I think if you eat posho, you know how much a kilo costs. A kilo of rice is almost shooting to 5,000. And those are the simple things that schools use as key or as basic for running a school. So government still has the obligation. You are a family head, I'm a family head. When things go tough, you should be tough to go by telling your children, you see, I have to double the effort, I have to work hard, I have to look for money. Where you are eating chicken, you scale to beef. Where you are eating beef, you may scale to offals. And maybe where you don't offals, you may scale to another delicacy. But you have to keep eating, you have to keep running. Equally, we realize that as we speak, there are schools that are public that have not received capitation. Now, if a school has not received capitation, and this is day one, how do you expect a parent, let's say, has reported to school with a child who has developed diarrhea within no time and she has to rush to the washroom or to the latrine, which are common in schools? You'll find that there is no toilet paper in the school, there is no water, they have not swept the urinals and scrubbed. So you'll find that schools' readiness entirely rely on the level of frugality that those who have authority should put as the first priority.
Now, yes. Patrick, all that said, and I would say it is justifiable.
Yes.
No one would say we are not seeing the changes of prices on the market of commodities. But then this brings me to one critical issue, the percentages of increment. Government of Uganda, I'm reliably informed, came out with a proper structure that if you want to increase fees, you must follow. PTA inclusive, that the parents and teacher association, you must first present this matter to them. Then they debate about it and say, as parents of this school, we've agreed to this percentage. Then forward that, even the PS, you know, you must give justifiable reasons, even to what percentage. Then the PS will notify the minister, then you're given authority to go ahead and increase school fees. Today, maybe someone has been paying 600 as school fees without any other thing. You wake up and a circular says, you're going to pay 1A. You're going to pay maybe addition of 200, 300, and I'm reliably informed that this is not approved by the ministry. You seem to be working in a vacuum or not respecting regulations, and the parents are taken hostage. All they do is, you must work tooth and nail, have an arm to ensure you suit in that. Third term, it is a promotional term. If you increase, when we are coming from COVID reopening of schools, we all accepted times have been hard, so you hiked fees as you wanted. Second term, orders, non-state and state all the same. Now again, you're targeting parents for the last term, you're hiking.
I want to tell you that there is misinformation and disinformation, misconception, and I should call it fake news in the public, thinking that those who increase fees are private school providers. Far from that. There are quite a number of government schools that we know that pay high fees compared to private schools. It is also true that for every school to levy any amount of money on the tuition collected, there should be levels of approval. The first level of approval is the school management committee. If it's a secondary school, it's a board of governors, which should be functional. And functional meaning that it should have all the members, it should be fully constituted, it should be able to make decisions that are legal and legitimate. And then from that organ, the Parents Teachers Association General Assembly should be able to endorse and agree to that. Then the permanent secretary should be informed, the town clerk should be aware, or the chief administrative officer. But you will find that all those happening require to be implemented in a clear policy and a law that enables all that take place. As we speak, the current law that guides us on the delivery of education and sports services is 13 years old, which is the Education Pre-Primary, Primary and Post-Primary Act. Since 2008, it is by government principles that if a law serves 5 years, it can be reviewed. But you note that there are too many issues prevailing as a result of COVID-19. There are too many issues prevailing as a result of the globalization and things that are happening. All those have to be considered within the law so that they are legislated and a policy is put in place, which policy should guide the law. But I had a member of parliament who was also raising a lot of dust about fees, and I asked, wait a minute. His work was to scrutinize the law and look at the gaps that there are, and then presents that maybe to the Committee of Education, because that's what he was supposed to do. I know that for the past 3 financial years, the Education Act has been part of the legislative agenda of Parliament to say this law must be amended. But that law has not been amended. Parents seem to be unaware about policies, procedures, and laws that help them to educate their children.
Let's look at, okay, we know there should have been an amendment, but it hasn't been there. But even with regarding the current law in place, why are we not seeing school heads, both government, because the members of parliament were concerned, of public schools that even get a capitation grant hiking school fees? Now, why are we seeing this happening? Because the current law stipulates how it should be done. Is it adamancy? Is it lack of monitoring by the ministry? I was speaking to the PRO of the ministry, Dr. Dennis Mujimba, and he was telling me, you have about 4,000 on our desk that want to increase school fees, all this and that. Why aren't we making sense out of the law? Are parents being blamed for government's failure, that is to aid private schools? That is, one would think so. But then what happens to the government ones that are also aided, that have increased tuition?
We have to discuss this matter squarely. One, that you cannot put a law to put school fees for private school actors. It sounds like a dream, but you can regulate them. So you can use the law to ensure that schools are regulated that are private, but also you can cap tuition or fees charged in government schools, because those government schools receive capitation and subvention from the taxpayers' money. Kirabo, Patrick, as taxpayers, we are the people who make sure that those schools run. So we have to ensure that the capping of charges for government schools is clear. Two, we have to strengthen regulation of private schools to ensure that there is compliance and adherence to existing rules, procedures, policies, and laws in place. But if the laws already have gaps, then it's going to be an advantage to those in the industry to use them at their advantage. Suffice to say, private schools are also run by government bureaucrats. The equate number of members of parliament who own private schools. So when they discuss that,
even from the ministry, a number of officials, top officials in the ministry.
That's why I said bureaucrats.
On schools.
So we
it's
have
like a requirement.
No, we have
look
to
at
make
levels
sure
of commissioners in the ministry. Look at all this. They have what they understand best is they also have their
Before
schools.
you present the commissioner, I want to tell you that a head teacher and a classroom teacher of Chitante Primary School owns a private school. A teacher in Buganda Road, they are listening to me, they own private schools. Even before you go to the commissioner, and it's not true that all commissioners have those private schools, but I said government bureaucrats at all levels.
Yes.
When we want to ensure that services are delivered and education as a service is enjoyed as a right, government has to show up and strengthen regulation. But there also has to be accountability and reporting in terms of what is happening in schools. Let's say a school in last term was charging 900,000 and it has right away increased to 1.2 million, an increase of 300,000. Ideally, that 300,000 should be communicated and broken down to show what it's going to do. Because it's not a one-off, it's a continuous. There are schools that are really transparent, that they tell you, if we collect from you 1 million, this is how we spend it. The expenditure structure is elaborate, and you will know it. But there are also schools that have an opaque system. Let's say a school collects 2.9 million as a school tuition for a student for one term, and you don't see exactly what does this 2.9 million do if the infrastructure is in place, supported by government, and if there are other monies that are off the budget. Actually, what does this money do to show parents that this money we collect does ABC? So we have to ensure that schools, by and large, improve on the accountability and reporting. Then for those who are listening to us, should know that under the Constitution of the Republic of Uganda, it empowers the Office of the Auditor General to audit all secondary schools. So the Auditor General's report should be read to see how schools are performing. If the school structure is not communicating to the parents on how they account, or maybe they are telling stories, then if they read the reports, they will be able to find out how schools are performing. But if the Office of the Auditor General is busy and maybe has a number of votes they are auditing, they can appoint an auditor. So I'm talking about auditor because it is then that we shall trust that this money collected from parents or the taxpayer is put to proper use. Yes, but in terms of school fees, I want to tell you, it is here to stay. Government has to come in and improves the public-private partnership so that the parent is not squeezed. Yeah.
Well, very interesting, Patrick, justifying and of course giving us what must be done. But remember, you can be part of the topic of discussion this morning by simply going on our various social media platforms. One of them is that number on your screen. That is our WhatsApp number, 0709 60 25 92. 0709 60 25 92. That is the number. Simply send us an SMS message or a WhatsApp text on that number, and I guarantee you I'll read out your message and Patrick will be able to respond to that. We know a number of parents are not comfortable with the new fee structure in a number of schools that did hike, that is tuition for third term. When we know it is the final term of the education calendar for any class, even if it is baby, I think that one moves to middle, then middle, that one moves to top class, P1. So there is continuation. And also don't forget that this is the year where candidates will be sitting for their final exams. Yes, we know UNEB says if a parent registered, even if they are owning this child's school fees, they must sit their final exams. But then after the results are held and the school will demand for a parent to clear. Now, Patrick.
Yes.
Help us also understand one thing. We may say they have not increased tuition, but then there are these continuous charges that make the whole sum very expensive. I've seen a school where I was in senior 1. Till today, they are still collecting money for a school bus. I've seen a school that is well constructed. Till today, they are still collecting building fund. I don't see any new building, but they are collecting building fund. Every new student, every term building fund. I've seen others, there are a number of things that are attached, that if you ask this, at the end of the day, the parent for your child to report or you be in that school, you must clear. I've seen one library fee. I don't know how many books they are going to buy. Some even you don't see a library anywhere. So the number of things that we find, they keep on adding to make it a huge sum. Maybe they'll tell you, our school fees, we've even increased just 50,000. Then they'll tell you, the van, we've increased to 200. This, we've done that. This, we've done that. So how do we then maneuver that? Because it's also another problem. In addition to high requirements that a parent must come with. A child in nursery, if I bought a rim last term, again a rim, then they tell a dozen pencils, you're wondering, but even if you're to catch it, what they used is less than that.
Thank you, Mr. Kirabo. You will note that for over 2 decades, I have been in the education sector. And I have not been enjoying being around, but I have been studying exactly what happens. I want to speak with authority and say that there are things which are happening deliberately, but there are also those that are happening and those in authority might not know because they have no information. The beauty of it is that a year ago, in May, the Honorable Minister and First Lady constituted a commission for the Education Policy Review Commission, which is supposed to look into what was to be delivered by the government white paper on education we are implementing 30 plus years ago. And that one should first and foremost address the issue of charges, education financing, and costs. And when we talk about costs, you see a baby learns from the mother. And it is that way. They even say a dog adapts the styles from the elder dog. You realize that as a country, we also face a number of hidden taxes. If you're a taxpayer, you'll know that there are direct and indirect taxes. By and large, there are schools which have hidden costs. And hidden costs are not communicated either in any circular or in any document showing how they come. But as you interact with them, you find that you are paying this, you are paying for that. And that is the ugly thing called requirements. Right now, at the Education Advocacy Network, we are initiating a study with the Uganda National Bureau of Standards to honestly and scientifically tell this country if this is a big pen, there is ink in this pen. How long does this pen write? How much quantity? Because experts at UBOS who are in the labs and who do standards know that this amount of ink can write a number of letters and a number of words. And I'm quite certain that this pen can last 2 months. Because when I was in my primary school, we used to have books written on government, property of the government of Uganda, not for sale. And we used to have long pens which are striped that would use for a term. The ink has not changed. But you find a school asks a child for 12 big pens, 12 pencils, a ream of paper, exercise books. Then you ask, does this child pick a value and life skill of being frugal or preserving what they have, or instead the school is promoting wastage, extravagancy, and when you circumvent around those requirements, you find that schools are passing bad vices that have to do with cheating. So if the fees is paid honestly, there should be a clear formula. Even the staff, the teachers in such schools should know really that if they are on the receiving tables collecting all those items, do the learners use them at the end of the term, or if they remain. I have not seen schools, Mr. Kirabo and viewers, which return some pens, pencils, books that have remained that you see your son or daughter never used all those items, we return. You keep sending. It is until this study that we are going to do with the UBOS comes out, we reveal exactly who has been doing what, for how long, and why. And this study is meant to inform policy processes that the Education Policy Review Commission should consider. And if you go to local governments right away, they are mandated to display some information on the notice boards. They are mandated to display salaries paid to staff of all local governments. We equally need to have a breakdown of school fees as agreed by the Minister of Education, to have cost centers that should be displayed in school notice boards, so that if you are a parent in that school, you will know that actually these are the cost centers. I'm saying this because oftentimes parents are not involved in the affairs, management of the schools where those children study. Actually, but studies again have it in this country that the highest contributor or the person who pays for education of the children in this school is not the government, incidentally. It's you and I. It's the parent. So if the parent is the one who pays, then he or she deserves to be involved, to be informed, to be accounted to, but also this parent should be in the law.
But what is happening, how do we bring the parent in this picture? Because between you and me and of course our viewers, Patrick, one thing is, you see, these schools are like demigods. I remember one time there was a school I went to, and actually Christian founded, government aided, and if your parent dared to go with you to the dormitory, that was an indefinite suspension. Remember, my headmaster, Mukure was very clear. You mess, your parent goes to the dormitory, you go back with the parent. I mean, it was a parent's right to know where does my child sleep. Issues of school fees are not bargainable. A circular comes, you either afford, or if you can't, find alternatives. A person will tell you, well, this is my school, these are my terms. I know of a school where the headmaster will tell you, in my school I'll cane you. If you don't want, but if you're here, me I will cane you. Government banned corporal punishment. So it seems parents are held at ransom, they are hostages, government is not coming in to help, you know. How do we come in? We know where. They'll just tell you, that school has a good standard. You take your child there. Why is your say? Most so if the school is doing very well, you're free to leave if you can't afford the terms.
That's why from the beginning I talked about the law. Proper delivery of education and sports services should be guided by an elaborate, clear, institutional, legal and policy framework. Currently in Uganda we are looking at 3 objectives majorly. That is access, and we can credit the existing framework that access has been achieved because of UPE, USE, expansion of private schools, and we have the issue of quality, which is another objective, but we have a key issue which is efficiency and effectiveness. And when you talk about the role of parents, first of all, these parents do not know what they are supposed to do or what their role is. They think their role is to have those children and take them to school. But there is a mandate beyond that they should participate in school activities.
And that brings me to the messages very fast.
Yes.
I have good morning Uganda, thanks for the show. I know schools have different costs and they have different standards, but some schools are unrealistic. Imagine a school with a population of 1,200 students, and each student goes with a squeezer every term. And what are all these? You pay sports fee, you don't see any sports activity at school. They should at least put on something reasonable so that parents see if they can manage. Akena Walter, this is Apia Chitigum. Then we also have, good morning, I'm Stephen Onene from Jinja. Thanks for the show, I'm here watching. Thank you so much. Then we also have, good morning. True price of commodities have increased and fuel costs have doubled. But unfortunately, we, the arts brethren, have remained the same. I cannot blame schools, but we are looking upon the mercy of God. My boys are in the house, no school fees. And an emoji there crying. Then also we have, okay, I'm trying to look at how different these are, the messages. Then also we are also not understanding the way these schools are increasing fees. We'll have a rejoinder and we wind up with those.
Thank you so much. I want to thank Walter, Stephen, and those in Gulu. It's true that the costs are high, fuel is high, children must go to school, but it's the duty of the state. And it is in the Constitution, in the national objectives and the state principles for running this state, that government shall offer free and compulsory education to all. And it shall also promote to ensure that Ugandans have attained the highest level of education possible. But now, when we talk about free education, people are still locked in UPE and USE. But when we talk of free, since COVID came, we've seen that education is delivered using internet. That ICTs should be used to promote teaching and learning process. So, shall we have that principle of free internet given to every school? That is a requirement as in the law. A gentleman has talked about salaries of arts against those of science. I think we are sitting on a time bomb. Just give it time. It will explode and the catastrophe will be dire. So we have to think aloud and think rationally and look at what this is building for the future. But if we are building for a society that is not together, a society that has issues, then we can pursue it. But my guidance is that we have to rethink that strategy and, if possible, review it or drop it. I should also tell you that the role of parents should be embedded in the law. We need to see the role of parents in the law so that they have a basis to engage, so that they are not left outside. Because everything we do, everything we think about, everything we implement should be based on evidence and on within the law. So this law should be amended. Parliament should get out and do its work. For us as Education Advocacy Network, ours is to ensure that the levels of conscience and civic engagement within the community called parents, teachers and learners is scaled up. And conversations like this should be promoted weekly.
Well, I want to thank you so much, Patrick Kaboyo, for having found time this morning and, of course, coming in the studios. We've been discussing the reopening of schools for the final term, but also the hiking of school fees. The law must be amended and parents must be included in running of schools, on the daily affairs of running of the school, not by force, but by the law. And we should see our ministry move tighter to implement this, because we must accept that education is a fundamental right, and the onus is on government to ensure every child of school-going age should have that as a right, not depending on how affordable their parents, their guardians can. Have a lovely day. See you later on in Good Morning Uganda Extra. God be with you.
Every waking day is a reminder just how beautiful this, our land, truly is. The kind of beauty that you can only find here.